Hello and welcome to the Enthusiastic Life podcast. I am Brendan Walsh and I am so excited that you are here with us again today. This week we have my friend Nick Gibbs. Nick is the Director of Business Development for Gibbs Machinery, a multi-generational family-owned business here in the Detroit area. And while we talk a little bit about that, mostly we talk about Nick's experience in ultra long races. Nick's been a friend of mine for a long time, and I'll let you share his story, but I've been fascinated how he went to just starting running to getting into 100-mile races and what the mindset of that is, how you prepare physically, mentally, emotionally. And Nick's just a great guy, and I think you'll really enjoy hearing his story. So thank you so much for joining us again. I hope you enjoy our conversation with Nick. And if you do enjoy it, please consider giving us a share, leaving a comment or a rating, and spread the enthusiastic news with those you care about and you think might enjoy listening to it. So thanks so much. And again, enjoy Nick Gibbs. Nick Gibbs, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So could you mind starting off by introducing yourself?
Sure. My name is Nick Gibbs. Should I go with work?
Sure.
I work for Gibbs Machinery Company, which is a family-owned company. Gibbs Machinery was formed in 1946 by my grandfather, who started selling World War II surplus equipment. We got a warehouse that's 56,000 square feet in Warren, Michigan, and we do auctions, liquidations, appraisals, and purchase surplus assets of manufacturers.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. And tell me a little bit, what do you remember of our origin story?
So I think that we met at the Detroit Athletic Club. I know we met at the Detroit Athletic Club, but it would be when we were competing in the Edge Ultimate Team Challenge. I think it was the first year of that.
Yeah. And your team was the
Percusizers.
The Percusizers. And
yes.
Where did that name come from?
That name came from, I want to say, the 1990s classic Heavyweights, starring Ben Stiller.
That's right. And we were the Puck Norris.
Yes. Yeah. I think back then we had enough hockey people to have two hockey teams going.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So 10-week-long strength and fitness challenge.
Yep.
And that was the inaugural year.
That was.
So back then we were competitors.
We were.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah. Nice. And then got to expand that through hockey.
We did. Yep. We've been playing hockey together for 7 years now.
Something like that. Yeah.
It's been fun.
It has been.
I really enjoy that hockey league because it's more about the camaraderie. It is definitely competitive, and it's getting more and more competitive. The last 7 years, it's surprising to me how many young guys have come into the league. I used to think that I was one of the young guys, but now it's hard to keep up.
How do you think I feel? I think I'm the oldest guy on my team every year.
Yeah, but it's at least you know that no one's going to try to take your teeth out, and you can hang out with the guys after, and the teams change every year, so you get to know a bunch of people.
How long have you been playing hockey?
I started playing hockey 27 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would, young guy. I think I started in 6 or 7 years old. So, yeah, I played all around the Metro Detroit area. I played in Southfield. I played in Birmingham. I played in Orchard Lake. And I ended up playing through high school at U of D.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It was fun. U of D had some rough years before I was there. And then my senior year was 2009. We ended up having a good team probably my sophomore and junior year. And then senior year, we were really good. And then it kind of continued on with the Moores and Jordan Dean and some of the other guys that are now playing in the DAC League.
Nice.
Yeah.
What would you say is your favorite hockey memory?
Ooh, favorite hockey memory. My senior year of high school, we won the MIHL, which is the league that we played in. And that consisted of U of D, Orchard Lake, St. Mary's, Cranbrook, Catholic Central, Brother Rice, Grosse Pointe North, and a bunch of other teams. So we had a good run that year. So I would just say that whole block of my senior year of high school.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So have you always worked with a family business? How did you get there?
So I was always around. It was never pushed on me from my father. But just growing up, I'd go to the shop. A lot of people have come to realize don't really understand manufacturing unless you're kind of raised in it. But I would go into the shop, I'd clean machines, I'd hang out. So yeah, it was kind of always in my blood that way. And then going through college, I started working at the shop. I was studying something different, kind of business adjacent, but not really straight into business. And while I was working in the family business, I decided that, hey, maybe I should do something business related and get into this. So started really working in there when I was 18, 19 years old, and then transitioned to full-time when I was about 23.
Nice. Yeah. So did you work anywhere after college, anywhere else?
No, not after college. I had a couple odd jobs in East Lansing. I worked at Coney Island for a little bit. I worked for a moving and storage company, but just summers here and there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I firmly believe that, at least I hope this for my kids, I want them all to work in the restaurant industry at some point.
Yeah.
Because I think there's attributes of working in a restaurant that you can apply to anything in life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Like, whether it's like thinking on your feet, you got to deal with stressful situations, lots of personality styles.
Yes.
You got to do fast math.
Yep.
You got to work up and down, right? Like you're working with bus staff to wait staff to the cooks to the management, right? Like,
yeah. No, absolutely. I even the moving and storage company, I was helping my sister move out of her apartment yesterday. So just kind of practical jobs and experience that can stick with you for the rest of your life, I guess.
So I'm curious. So I remember when we were doing the Edge, you were always easily one of the top performers.
Thank you.
So we have this Edge challenge for those who might not know. It's this 10-week long team strength and fitness challenge, and there'd be like a different strength or endurance competition every week. And Nick and our friend Josh were always like the number one on either teams. So then you take that, and I remember, how did you get into distance running from there?
So I always was kind of good at distance running. I never pursued it. When at U of D every year we do a fundraiser that was a walkathon, and I would get off the couch mainly because I just wanted to be done early with the walkathon, because when you were done with the walkathon you could leave school for the day. But so I was just trying to do it as quick as possible. But I think it was a 10-mile walk. I'm pretty sure they still do it, but I would always just show up to that and I would kind of let it rip. And like my hockey coaches would be at like mile 7, they'd be like, "What are you doing up here?" Because I'd be chasing the cross country guys, and be very sore after that. But it was always something that I kind of naturally felt pretty good about. And then after the Edge, I got to meet our good friend Mike Carl, and Mike Carl told me that he ran some marathons back in the day, and I was like, this might be something cool to try to pursue. So I think 2021. I signed up for the Freep Marathon in Detroit. I looked up like a little online training plan and put it together, and ended up having a decent day. I didn't set any big goals for myself. I really wanted to finish. Ended up doing okay time-wise, and just kind of got hooked after that.
So how many have you done since 2021?
Marathons?
Yeah.
Sanctioned marathons, where it's just been to show up and do 26.2 officially. I think I've done 4 or 5.
Okay.
I have done some longer stuff.
So I want to get into that. So so most people hear marathon and they think someone's crazy just for doing that, especially considering the first person to run a marathon died.
Right. Okay.
Right? I mean, we think about the history of the marathon, right? Like delivered the message.
So the story goes.
Yes. Allegedly.
Okay.
How do you go from 0 to 26.2, and then from 26.2 to 100 miles?
So I hit a 50 in between, which was really, the 50 was kind of the aha moment.
And what's that?
So there's recently there's been a lot of running coverage in the last few years. More and more people pop up, influencers or whatever. But I did the marathon, and I was like, that was great. Felt good about it. And then I read a book. Elliot Builders actually gave me a book called Born to Run. And I read that book, and they were talking about doing longer races, 50-mile races, 100-mile races, some very famous races that exist. Well, they're not very famous. They're starting to get more famous now. But I looked up a local 50-mile race because I was like, the 26.2, maybe I could do something longer. And I think it was 2022 at the time, there was a race that went from Torch Lake up to Petoskey. And I was like, 50 miles. It's long. That's on a road, but it was kind of, you could have people like work with you for a crew with cars. I had a buddy whose family had a house up there, and I was like, maybe I'll give this a go. So I started training for that in 2022. I think the race was in June, and I showed up to that race, and there was some very serious looking people at that start line that did those races, I guess, pretty frequently. I didn't know what I was doing. I just kind of shifted my marathon training plan to make it longer. And I showed up with, just like an Under Armour t-shirt on and some Asics shorts. And I didn't set any big expectations for that race for myself, but I ended up doing pretty good. I finished in 8th.
Out of how many runners?
I want to say like 120 started it.
That's awesome.
It was good. And I need to check to see how many. I think there was at least 100 people that started.
It wasn't 10.
It wasn't 10. And there's a lot of attrition in the races. People drop out, stuff happens. So I think like 60 or 70 people finished it. But yeah, my buddy.
I've never done one before.
Never doing one. And at the start line, I really looked like I shouldn't be there.
So describe to me, like, I'm trying to picture.
Yeah.
So when you walk up to there and you're just like in shorts and a shirt.
I was really scared.
What do these guys look like? Like, who are there?
Well, I mean, I'm a bigger guy, so I probably, the average weight, I probably had 30 or 40 pounds on the average weight of some people. That was like my first experience where people were wearing hydration vests. So, guys are wearing Solomon vests, strapped up with all this gear. And I was just there with, like my phone in my pocket. I didn't have headphones. I was just kind of
there for a jog.
Yeah, I was just going to figure out, see what happened. And I remember it was cool because those races, you're racing kind of in the countryside, but you're on the country roads up north. And we had to go through Charlevoix, which I think was like 12 miles left in the race. And they have aid stations along the way. So you pop into an aid station because it's so long, you need to eat and you need to get water just to fill up on calories, fluids, electrolytes, all that stuff, which I was figuring all that out as I went. But there's a drawbridge in Charlevoix, and I went into the aid station with like 5 people. And I was like, I think I can probably drop these guys at the bridge and see what happens because I was feeling good, and it worked out. So then my buddy, who was with my wife, Courtney, in a car just kind of checking on me because they could drop stuff off for me on the way. I think I was like 7 miles out, and they're like, hey, like we think you're in the top 10. And I was shocked by that, but I was like, okay, let's see what we can do. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
So how long between that and then your first 100 miles?
So that was in 22, and then in 23, I kind of, just doubled it. I was like, that worked out pretty well. I think I can do 100.
I just like to stop for a moment and just think about I mean, you have doubled your races.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and it was interesting because looking at the 100, I like to look at things and break them down. And I knew that people did them, and like, there's, some pretty intimidating people that are runners at the start line, but there's also there's people that kind of get through things on sheer will. And I was hoping I wouldn't be that guy, but I was like, I'll put a big goal out there for myself. I have enough time to put in a training block, figure it out. So I signed up for the 2020, I think it was 2023 Hennepin 100, which that was in Illinois. It was on a drainage canal, which was actually really cool because we were doing a project for work that was by Komatsu Mining, and they do big earth moving shovels, but we were liquidating their factory in Wisconsin, and it was the first Komatsu drag line actually dug that canal. So that was kind of fun parallel that was going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I looked at this one, and it was supposed to be flat and fast, which fast for 100 miles is all relative. But I thought that would be a good one to kind of just see if I could do it and what happens. And that one, similarly, they had a way bigger field, but that one worked out pretty good where I went from just figuring, hey, I got 30, I think they give you 32 hours to finish it. And And I looked at it, I was like 32 hours. Okay, I just want to finish it. And then as you get deeper and deeper in the race, I was like, I'm doing pretty good. Might want to adjust this a little bit and see what I could end up doing. And I ended up finishing pretty good with that too. I think it was 20 hours and 50 minutes.
20 hours and 50 minutes to run 100 miles.
Yep.
Okay, I have a lot of questions.
Yes.
First, how do you train for that?
Okay. It's hard, and you have to kind of dial it up depending on what the race is. And what I mean by that is some of the other stuff I've done has had elevation. The Hennepin race was flat and fast, so that was really just time on your feet. And I would say the biggest difference between, like, if you take out all the tempo runs, which if you're doing for a marathon for time, it's going to be, faster paced stuff, and you're really just doing long runs and slower runs. You're trying to build your aerobic base. So you're staying at like a zone 2. You're not taxing yourself too much. You're just getting a lot of miles on your feet. So normally I would do Tuesday, just to grab numbers, maybe do 6 miles, and then Wednesday 9 miles, Thursday 6 miles, and kind of build those up progressively as the weeks keep going on. But the biggest difference between a marathon training and something like that is a lot of people will add a second long run. So the long run for the marathon training is on the weekend, where it might be 13 miles, 15 miles, 17 miles. You make sure you do that. Normally people do them on Sunday and then just kind of hang out for the rest of the day. But for the ultras, at least what's worked for me, it's been different for a lot of different people, is I'll put a second long run in on Sunday, which that pretty much just gets you comfortable running on tired legs.
Yeah.
So maybe if you do, just to grab numbers to start, if you did a 50-mile run on Sunday, you'd follow it up with a 10-mile run on Saturday, and then go up to 17 miles if you do 15 on Saturday, you do 10 miles on Sunday, and then maybe go up to 17 on Saturday, 12 on Sunday, and just kind of build it out that way. Yep.
So 20 hours is a long time to do anything.
Yes.
Let alone run. What are you thinking about? What is going through your head when you are running?
For the racing?
Yeah.
Well,
and how do you keep going? Like, how many times do you, like, when you did it the first time?
Yeah.
At any point are you thinking, this sucks, I don't want to do this anymore? And how do you get through that?
I think that if you take that attitude with those races, and pretty much with anything, it's not going to end up great.
Sure.
So there's going to be the marathon. If you're running a marathon, you can redline an entire marathon. That's going to be brutal, but you'll get through it. If you're doing the longer race, you're going to have ups and downs throughout the whole thing. So really, when I'm doing that, I think about.
And when you say redline, you mean like you're going to push yourself the whole time, right?
So I think for a marathon, you could, the guys that go really fast, they just hammer it from the get.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking, but if you do that with something longer than that, you're going to have a really hard time. At least the vast majority of people. So you got to kind of realize that there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, and then the whole time, like thought process wise, you need to just troubleshoot what's going on in the moment, because it's kind of a given that you're going to be tired and you're not going to feel great. The biggest thing is other things that might be going wrong that you need to be in tune with, I guess, with your body and also with your gear. Like you might blow a shoe out, you might be short on electrolytes, maybe you didn't drink enough water in the last segment, but you need to constantly be doing a diagnosis of all these things and then adjusting them when you can. So there's a lot more, I want to say there's a lot more thinking that goes on in the longer events, because there's more time and there's a lot more things that can go wrong.
So how do you find ways to take that and just apply it to everyday life?
I like to think I do. Yeah, because I mean, if you look at everything just from a struggle process, the first thing you got to do if you're having issues is take a minute, step back, and look at everything and figure out what the issue is, and then you need to actively make a plan to solve it. And I think that's a really good lesson to be applied with almost anything that you do. Is you're not going to be able to solve a problem unless you diagnose at the core what the problem actually is.
So what's the hardest challenge you've had to overcome during one of these long races?
The hardest challenge I actually had to overcome, wasn't necessary. It was probably the best lesson I learned, and it was before I did the Hennepin race. So I did. Sometimes I'll sign up for marathons before the longer, before 100K or 100-mile race, just because it's a supported training run. So if I show up, I know that there's going to be water throughout the course. There's going to be people there, and I can go get 26 miles and don't put any stress on myself. But the first one I did before Hennepin was it was in Pinckney, Michigan. It was called the Woodstock Running Festival, and they do a trail marathon. And the hardest lesson I learned there was I was feeling really good, and I was feeling really confident because I knew I put so much miles in for training for the 100. I was kind of thinking, maybe I'll try to win this. It was a loop race, and I got through the first loop, and I realized I didn't have any water. So the first half marathon, which that had elevation and all sorts of stuff in it, I didn't take any fluids or electrolytes in. And I realized that when I got to the aid station and filled up water bottles, and the lady looked at me, she's like, "You haven't drank anything?" I was like, "No." And she's like, "Oh boy." And I was like, I'll be fine. And then I went for another probably 4 miles. And I was 2 miles away from an aid station, and the term is bonked. So I bonked very hard, which is your body just starts to shut down because you don't have any salt, you don't have electrolytes, and really you can't move. So I stopped and I pulled over on the side of the trail. The guy that was behind me passed me, and then the next 7 people passed me. Everyone was like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just dealing with some stuff." I ended up walking 2 miles to get to the next aid station, and I sat down there for 30 minutes, had some more fluids in me, and was able to get up and finish the race. But just kind of understanding that for the process, you need to know where you are at all times. You can't really lose concentration. You need to take account of everything that you're doing, just to make sure that everything you need is getting into your body to help you be successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of interesting parallels that you can take that to anything in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And it's that's the other thing I really like about it is kind of setting big goals or putting something in the distance that you have to work on leading into it, and structure your days, your weeks. You're planning months out, but just understanding that you need to take account for where you are at that moment. And make sure you're checking all the boxes for everything you need to be able to be successful when the time comes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, any plans for your next race?
Yes. So I'm tentatively signed up for one that's in Cleveland in October, where I had a little bit of delay starting off this year, where I took a little break, but getting back into it. But I'm going to try to run 100 in October.
And are there longer races, and do you want to do them?
There are longer races. I've talked about doing them with Courtney, and Courtney's my wife, and she's supportive of whatever I want to do, depending on the time investment. There's a couple 200-mile races and a 250-mile race. Those are all out west. I've thought about it. I think the first thing I want to do before I do one of those is a race called the Western States 100, which that was once I did the first 100 in Hennepin, or the Hennepin 100, that was kind of my goal, was to get into Western States, which is you have to run a qualifying race every year, and then you get lottery tickets, and it's the most competitive race to get into in North America. So I've been doing a qualifying race every year to get more lottery tickets. I think this year I might actually have a shot of getting in. I should have, I think, 16 lottery tickets, but I'm going to try to knock off Western States before I do anything longer, I think.
And is that a more challenging race?
Western States?
Yeah.
So Western States is the original 100-mile race in North America. It started as a horse race where there were guys that goes from Lake Tahoe, the Palisades in Lake Tahoe, to Auburn, California. And it's a point-to-point race, which means it's got a start line and a finish line. They're totally separate. It's just 100 miles straight. But that race is it's the most famous of any race in North America, and it's probably got the most money behind it. So all the guys are big names in trail racing. They go to that. You can win races and get golden tickets to get into it. But that's the most prestigious race in North America. And just from an experience standpoint, I wouldn't stand a chance competitively, but it would be really cool to do that one.
In a beautiful part of the country.
In a beautiful part of the country.
And a higher elevation, which I have to imagine
Yes.
is a different challenge.
It is. So that one actually is a net downhill, which I think there's 16,000 feet of elevation gain. So you go up 16,000 feet, but you end up descending 20,000 feet.
Good Lord.
Which is, especially if you're training in Metro Detroit, it throws a totally different aspect of the race at you. But yeah, it's people worry about the elevation, people worry about the heat. With that race, it's just a bunch of other factors that you need to account for if you're going to do something like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So I want to change gears a little bit. Something I like to ask everybody is there's a lot going on in the world these days. And what is bringing you the most joy?
What's bringing me the most joy right now is definitely my daughter. So my daughter is 19 months old. She's great. Her name is Josie. It's been incredible to see my wife become a mother and really embrace that role and doing all the great things that you can do in Metro Detroit in the summer. She loves the splash pad. She loves going on walks. She's starting to be able to defend herself with our dog, which is great. Seeing those guys interact a lot more. But yeah, it's fun because she's getting to the point where she's starting to be very vocal and develop her personality a lot more. It's just been something that's incredible to see every day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a fun age.
What about you?
For me, it's similar. We're on the different end of the spectrum with the age of our kids. And it's, so my eldest is 16 and she has her license and we just added a third car.
Okay.
For the summer in particular, because it just was going to make life easier to have her help, right? As part of Team Walsh taxi cab service.
Absolutely.
And so it's just seeing my kids flourish and grow into young adults. You know, right? Like she's got a job. She's a lifeguard and teaching swimming.
Okay.
My son's working as a caddy.
Nice.
And he's doing a lot of sports, and my daughter's doing a lot of sports and involved in some different camps. My youngest 12-year-old, and it's fun having time with them and my wife. And now that the kids are older, we don't need babysitters anymore.
Yeah.
So
that's nice.
We went out last night with my sister and her friend and went to the Tigers game and had dinner and things that we can do now more regularly. And so it's kind of that different stage of life, because I remember. And we moved here with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old and one on the way. And I remember that's a fun stage of life.
It is. But we're at the point where we're trying out new babysitters, so we got a lot of road left before we are where you guys are at. But,
well, if you need any recommendations, I got a couple. I actually have 3 certified babysitters in the house. So
that's perfect.
One with a car. So
yeah,
there you go.
We'll throw them in the mix.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for your time today. I'm glad we could do this, and thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And that was my friend Nick Gibbs. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I don't know if I'm going to get out and run a 100-mile race, but it does inspire me to at least get out and do something. So I hope you enjoyed that conversation. If you did, please consider giving us a share or a rating or a like wherever you are listening or watching this. And let some folks know about what we're doing here over at Enthusiastic Life. We're happy that you're joining us. I'm honored to any and all of you that are listening, even if it's just my wife. So thank you again for joining us and look forward to talking with you again soon. Have a great day.